In 2023, a study by Northwestern Mutual found that the average American has less than $89,000 saved for retirement, and the average age of that person is 57 years old. 57. That means millions of people who are closer to the end of their working life than the beginning have less than $90,000 to show for it. Meanwhile, the top 1% of American households hold more wealth than the entire bottom 90% combined. Same country, same economy, same dollar, wildly different outcomes. So the question is not whether the game is fair, it is not. The question is, what do the people winning it actually do differently? Because it is not luck. It is not inheritance. Studies show that over 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation. It is not even income. There are people making $400,000 a year who are broke, and people making $60,000 a year quietly building serious wealth. It comes down to 8 specific behaviors, 8 things that wealthy people obsess over that most people never think about. And by the end of this video, you are going to know every single one of them. Stay with me, because number 4 is the one that will genuinely surprise you. Number 1. Wealthy people obsess over the difference between assets and liabilities, and most people have this completely backwards. Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the best-selling financial books in history, defines an asset as something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out. Simple enough. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people spend their entire working lives buying liabilities and calling them assets. The clearest example is a car. Most Americans believe their car is an asset. It is not. The moment you drive it off the lot, it loses between 15 and 20% of its value. It costs you insurance every month, maintenance, fuel, registration fees. It is an expense machine that most people finance with debt. That is a liability. Wealthy people know this. They still buy cars, but they are obsessively aware of what every purchase actually does to their net worth. The house question is more complicated. A house can be an asset if it generates income, like a rental property. A house you live in the traditional sense, is closer to a liability on a monthly basis. Mortgage, insurance, maintenance, property taxes. That does not mean you should not buy a home. It means you should understand what you are actually buying before you buy it. Wealthy people obsessively ask one question before every major purchase. Does this make me richer or poorer over time? Most people never ask it once. Now here is the rehook before we go to number 2. Because number 2 is where most middle-class wealth goes to die, and nobody talks about it. Number 2, wealthy people obsess over their savings rate, not their income. In 2019, a viral study from MIT analyzed the financial habits of over 10,000 households across income levels. The finding was striking. The single strongest predictor of wealth accumulation was not income. It was the percentage of income saved and invested, regardless of the total amount. A household earning $65,000 and saving 20% of it consistently was building more long-term wealth than a household earning $150,000 and saving 5%. This runs completely against how most people think. We are conditioned to believe that earning more is the answer. Earn more, have more. But the data says something different. The data says discipline with a smaller number beats indiscipline with a larger one. Every time. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent decades studying American millionaires for their book, The Millionaire Next Door. Their most surprising finding, the majority of American millionaires do not live in wealthy neighborhoods, do not drive luxury cars, and would not stand out in a crowd. They live below their means, consistently, year after year. Not because they cannot afford more, because they understand that the gap between what you earn and what you spend is the only real measure of financial progress. The wealthy do not upgrade their lifestyle every time their income increases. They upgrade their savings rate first. Number 3, wealthy people obsess over compound interest, and they start early enough for it to matter. Here's a comparison that has been used in finance classrooms for decades, because it is genuinely shocking every time you see it. 2 people, call them Sarah and Marcus. Sarah starts investing $300 a month at age 22. She does it for 10 years, then stops completely at age 32, never invests another dollar after that. Marcus starts investing the same $300 a month at age 32, a decade later, and keeps going all the way until age 62. He invests for 30 years. Sarah invests for 10. At age 62, assuming a 7% average annual return, Sarah has approximately $528,000. Marcus has approximately $340,000. Sarah wins by almost $200,000, despite stopping investing 3 decades earlier. The only difference is when she started. This is not a trick. This is compound interest doing exactly what it does. Every dollar you invest earns returns. Those returns earn returns. And the longer that cycle runs, the more powerful it becomes. Warren Buffett made 97% of his net worth after his 65th birthday. But only because the foundation was built in his 20s and 30s. He has called compound interest the most powerful force in the universe. And the only input it requires from you is time. The wealthiest people alive did not get there by being smarter than everyone else. They got there by starting early and leaving the money alone long enough for math to do the work. Now, cliffhanger. Number 4 is the one most people get completely wrong, and it has nothing to do with investing. Number 4, wealthy people obsess over their relationship with debt. Specifically, they understand that not all debt is the same, and they treat each type completely differently. There are 2 types of debt that matter here. The first is what financial experts call bad debt. Credit card balances at 22% APR, payday loans at 400%, personal loans for vacations or consumer goods. This kind of debt is a wealth destroyer. It is money flowing out of your pocket every month into a lender's revenue. People who carry high-interest consumer debt as a permanent condition are essentially working part-time for their credit card company without ever agreeing to the job. The Federal Reserve reported in 2023 that American households collectively carried $1.08 trillion in credit card debt. That is trillion with a T. And at an average APR of 22%, the interest alone on that number is staggering. Wealth does not accumulate under that kind of weight. The second type is what some call good debt, or more accurately, strategic debt. A mortgage on a property that generates rental income. A student loan that led to a career with meaningfully higher earnings. A business loan that created equity. This kind of debt is a tool. It is borrowed capital that produces a return greater than its cost. Used correctly, strategic debt accelerates wealth building. Used carelessly, it destroys it. Wealthy people are not necessarily debt-free. Many of the wealthiest individuals and businesses in the world carry significant debt deliberately. What they never do is carry high-interest consumer debt. They treat that category of debt like a house fire, something to be eliminated immediately and prevented from returning. The middle class treats all debt the same, as a normal part of life. The wealthy treat each type of debt differently, and they are aggressive about eliminating the kind that bleeds them. Number 5, wealthy people obsess over multiple income streams. The IRS publishes data on this every year that most people never see. In their most recent analysis of tax returns from the top 1% of earners, the finding was consistent with every prior year. The vast majority of high net worth individuals reported income from 3 or more distinct sources. Not one job, not one paycheck, multiple streams flowing simultaneously. The most common combination among millionaires in America is a primary career income, some form of investment income, dividends, capital gains, or real estate returns, and a secondary business or freelance revenue stream. None of these have to be enormous individually. A $400 monthly dividend from an investment portfolio, a $600 monthly rental income from a spare bedroom, and a $2,000 monthly salary from a side consulting practice adds up to $3,000 a month before the primary income even enters the picture. The reason multiple income streams matter is not just the money, it is the security. A person with one income source has one point of failure. One layoff, one medical event, one economic downturn takes everything off the table. A person with 3 income streams loses 1/3 of their income at most under the same scenario. The wealthy are not necessarily working harder. They are working in more places at once. This does not mean you need to build 5 businesses simultaneously. It means you start thinking about your primary job as income stream number 1, and you ask yourself what income stream number 2 looks like. It could be a dividend-paying index fund, a digital product, freelance work in your area of expertise, real estate. The specific vehicle matters less than the habit of thinking in multiples. Re-hook. Because number 6 is the behavior that the wealthiest people in the world spend more time on than almost anything else, and most people treat it as an afterthought. Number 6. Wealthy people obsess over their network. Jim Rohn, entrepreneur and motivational philosopher, famously said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It sounds like a motivational poster. The data behind it is more serious than that. A 2019 study published in Nature, one of the world's most prestigious scientific journals, analyzed the social networks of over 72 million Americans using anonymized data. The finding was direct. Economic mobility, the ability to move from a lower income bracket to a higher one, was more strongly correlated with the income level of a person's social connections than with any other single factor studied, including education, including geography, including access to capital. In plain terms, the people around you shape your financial ceiling more than almost anything else, not because of nepotism, though that exists, but because of access to information, norms, expectations, and opportunities that circulate through social networks. A person embedded in a network of entrepreneurs hears about investment opportunities, business ideas, and financial strategies that simply do not reach people in networks where those conversations never happen. Wealthy people invest in their relationships deliberately. They attend industry events. They pursue mentors. They maintain connections across different fields. They understand that the right conversation at the right moment can be worth more than years of self-study. This is not elitism, it is strategy, and it is available to anyone willing to be intentional about who they spend time with. Number 7, wealthy people obsess over continuous learning, specifically financial education. Fidelity Investments, one of the largest financial services companies in the world, conducted a study in 2021 analyzing the investing behavior of their account holders over a 20-year period. The accounts with the highest returns shared one characteristic more than any other. Their owners updated their financial knowledge regularly. They read, they researched, they adjusted their understanding as markets and tax laws and economic conditions changed. The average CEO in America reads 52 books per year. That is 1 book per week. The average American reads 4. Warren Buffett estimates he spends 80% of his working day reading and thinking. Charlie Munger, his longtime partner at Berkshire Hathaway, has said that he has never met a genuinely wise person who did not read constantly. This is not coincidence. Compound learning works the same way compound interest does. Each thing you understand opens the door to understanding something else. Each piece of financial knowledge you acquire makes the next piece easier to apply. The person who understands how tax brackets work is more prepared to understand tax-advantaged accounts. The person who understands those accounts is more prepared to understand asset allocation. The person who understands asset allocation is more prepared to understand estate planning. It builds. The wealthy treat financial education as a non-negotiable ongoing investment, not a one-time event, not a phase they went through once. A continuous practice that runs in parallel with everything else they do. Number 8. And this is the one that ties everything else together. Wealthy people obsess over delayed gratification at a systemic level. The Stanford Marshmallow Experiment, conducted in the late 1960s and early 1970s, is one of the most cited studies in behavioral psychology. Children were offered a choice, 1 marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows if they could wait 15 minutes. The researchers then followed these children for decades. The ones who waited, who chose delayed gratification, showed dramatically better outcomes across almost every measure studied: academic performance, income levels, health markers, and yes, financial net worth. This finding has been replicated and refined many times since. The core insight holds: the ability to resist immediate reward in favor of a larger future reward is one of the most powerful predictors of long-term success across almost every domain. In financial terms, this plays out everywhere. The person who invests instead of spending receives the larger reward, eventually. The person who builds a business through 2 or 3 years of lower income receives the larger reward, eventually. The person who lives in a modest apartment while their net worth compounds receives the larger reward, eventually. The wealth is not hidden. It is deferred. American consumer culture is engineered to work against this. Every advertisement, every one-click purchase, every buy now, pay later option is a carefully designed invitation to choose the one marshmallow. Wealthy people are not immune to these pressures. They face the same culture, the same temptations, the same algorithms. What they have built, deliberately over time, is a set of systems and habits that make the default behavior the patient one. Automated savings, pre-committed investment contributions, clear financial goals that give future rewards a shape and a name. So, here are the 8 behaviors. An obsession with assets over liabilities. A savings rate that beats income as the primary focus. Compound interest started early enough to matter. A surgical understanding of debt. Multiple income streams built deliberately. A network treated as a strategic investment. Continuous financial education as a non-negotiable practice. And delayed gratification built into systems rather than willpower. None of these require a trust fund. None of them require an MBA. None of them are locked behind a salary threshold. Every single one of them is available to anyone who decides to start. The gap between the people who build wealth and the people who wonder why they cannot is almost never money. It is almost always behavior. And behavior is the one thing you can actually change. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 8 you are working on right now. Subscribe for a new video every week, and I will see you in the next one.